Fair use, fair use. Um, Somebody had asked me to make a reaction towards Jamie Carragher's combined 11, which is basically comparing Manchester United's 1999's treble team to Manchester City's treble winning team of this year in 2023. And they have to make a combined 11, right? So in goal, Jamie Carragher has the 4-4-2, which is Alex Ferguson's formation, I presume. And he selected Schmeichel in goal, Walker as right back, Stam as center back, Diaz as center back, Ern as left back, Beckham and Grealish at the wings, Keane and Gundogan in the middle, De Bruyne and Haaland up top. But I'm assuming that he means De Bruyne's going to kind of play a number 10 role, which he can do. Now, if we're going by Ferguson's formation, right, I would disagree with a couple here. So let's start with the goalkeeper. Schmeichel, I can't really argue Schmeichel. If you want to put him there, I understand that. Walker, can't argue that. Stam and Diaz at the back, I really can't argue that, to be fair. And mind you, Jamie Carragher, his reasoning was he wanted to basically he wanted to do the players. He didn't want to do players based of all time, how their careers fare out all time. He was just doing it on strictly that particular season, right? So Beckham on the wing, I can't completely argue that. For the two wingers I would select, basically, I wouldn't have select Grealish on the wing. I would have selected Bernardo Silva on one of the wings. I would have had Grealish off, and I would have Bernardo Silva and Beckham on the wings, or I would put Bernardo Silva at the right wing, Ryan Giggs at the left wing. Me personally, since we're selecting the wingers from that time, from Manchester United 99 team, I would select Giggs and then Bernardo Silva from Man City's team. And then the two center midfielders I would select would be De Bruyne and Scholes. Or you could do Scholes and Gundogan, but I would take Keane off because because Keane actually, from that particular season, he ended up missing some time. So not a whole lot of time, but he did miss some time. And on top of that, I rate De Bruyne all time over Keane, right? And if you want to do Gundogan and Keane, fine. De Bruyne and Keane, fine. Because I guess the logic is you need like somebody to balance out De Bruyne in the midfield. But if you have De Bruyne and Scholes in the midfield, that's all you need, really, in my opinion. So I would replace those two with De Bruyne and Scholes. So my midfield basically would be, if we're going with Jamie's logic, his formation, I would go De Bruyne, and De Bruyne and Scholes, Bernardo Silva and Ryan Giggs on the wing, and the two strikers up top would be Haaland and Dwight York. Mix and match. You want to use Andy Cole, fine, but I would say Haaland and Dwight York. Only because Dwight York was more. Dwight York and Haaland up top would be a better balance in my opinion. Because Andy Cole is more of a poacher. He would need more service. Dwight York can create a little bit better than Andy Cole, and it would be nice to see Dwight York and Haaland up top. It would be interesting. That would be interesting, right? But yeah, that would be basically the only changes I would make to Jamie's. His philosophy, his logic. The only thing, obviously, I would disagree with. I don't think Grealish should be on that team, and I think that's just a British bias on his end. But
bit more balance here. Then.
Yeah, a bit more balance.
So let's see.
Scholes had 21 goals and assists that season from central midfield and played 51 matches. I love Jack Grealish. I love Gundogan, but I'm not entertaining the conversation around Ryan Giggs or Jack Grealish or Paul Scholes and Gundogan.
Yeah, that's true. I agree. I'm not. Yeah, and like I said, Gary Neville is a former Manchester United player and legend. So he might be biased on that, but I completely agree with him. I'm not taking just on that particular season. I'm not saying, because Jack Grealish kind of had a iffy start and he came on strong at the end of the season. But when you're talking about Ryan Giggs, I'm definitely taking Ryan Giggs over Grealish. Now, the conversation with Gundogan and Paul Scholes, it's a lot closer than people think. But out of respect for Paul Scholes, I will take Paul Scholes over Gundogan. But I can't blame somebody if they want to take Gundogan over Paul Scholes. Gundogan is so underrated. He is so, like, I'm talking about in all time, he's so underrated, man. And luckily, because I think what has killed Gundogan is his injury record in the past, especially when he was younger. His time to shine in the World Cups, he wasn't fit for those tournaments. I think the 2012 and the 2014 World Cup, where he was supposed to break out, he couldn't play in those World Cups because he was injured. And then you see what happened in 2018. And so it's like he's been, like, internationally, he hasn't been able to shine. So I think that's why people but man, Gundogan is as good as it gets, bro, out there in terms of center mids, in my opinion. But let's see what Gary Neville.
That one season.
I'm not entertaining the conversation.
But what about De Bruyne and Haaland?
Look, Haaland scored 52 goals. So the fact of the matter is that is unbelievable. It's absolutely sensational. I had done it in a second team. I felt as though I was being disrespectful to Yorkie and Coley. Yorkie's record that season, I think he had something like 20 assists and 29 goals. It was
damn, in all competitions. Sheesh. So let's see Gary's combined 11. Now in the video, I'm gonna. Oh my God, that's so biased. Anyway. I guess so. He kind of did the same thing, kind of put De Bruyne and Haaland up top. I guess I know what they're trying to do in terms of the number 10 role, but that's so biased. Anyway, but I'll say this: Ruben Diaz is underrated. It's interesting. I always said this with Van Dijk, people calling him the best center back in the world, and people saying he should have won Ballon d'Or. I said if Van Dijk did the same, if he had the same season with Chelsea or Manchester City, they will not be saying that. Because Diaz has had a good of a season as almost all of them, and no mention of him being the best center back in the world, even though he can make a case that he is. But it's like, it's not being shoved down your throat that he is the best center back in the world. And he's had a good of a season, if not better than all of them. But let me see. So Schmeichel and goal, I can't argue that. Stam Diaz in back, Irwin at left back, I can't. So Giggs, Beckham, I would keep Giggs, but I would replace David Beckham, Keane, and Scholes. Me personally, put De Bruyne in that midfield, and Haaland and Dwight York up top. That's what I would do.
I said I'd go with whoever Carragher picks, and he's picked Kyle Walker. So Kyle Walker.
Oh, so he ends up picking Kyle Walker. Well, to me, I'll say this about Gary Neville and his position. When people say he's the best Premier League right back of all time, I vehemently disagree. I wish I could. The clip is not on YouTube anymore because I watched. It was a documentary between Patrick Vieira and Roy Keane, and they did an interview together, and they basically talked about how when they were doing their combined 11 of Arsenal all time and Manchester United of all time, when it came to the right back conversation, Keane didn't really even bat an eye that Patrick Vieira wanted Lauren at that right back position. And it's interesting that people don't even consider, like, they consider Lauren underrated, but they don't consider him the best right back of all time. But Roy Keane was like, yeah, I understand. He'd even argue he went to war about Dennis Irwin at the left back position over Ashley Cole. Ashley Cole, who's, to me, he has cemented his spot as the best Premier League left back of all time. And Roy Keane went to war for Dennis Irwin, but not for Gary Neville over Lauren. That kind of shows you that I don't think Gary Neville, I kind of look at Gary Neville kind of the same way I look at Arbeloa. And I know people kind of get me, like, they get a little bit, they're like, what are you trying to say? Oh, Gary Neville's, I think they're both solid players. But in a team full of stars, they benefited way more than, the other way around. That's how I look at those guys. I believe, because they were both in the same position, Gary Neville was the only right back on the team. So he literally played every game. So he had to be, up to it wasn't like there was real competition for the spot. He was the only right back on the team. And same with Arbeloa. Arbeloa was the only right back on the team, and he was good for the locker room in terms of everybody, he was comfortable with everybody. Everybody liked him, right? So he was able to stay. He never caused any trouble off the pitch, as far as I know. Very team-oriented, willing to sacrifice. That's why they stayed at their positions as long as they could. They never got hurt. You know what I mean? I'm not going to say like they were like the Eli Manning of their positions, but it's just like they were the only right backs on their team. They had no other right back on their team. So that's why they played literally every game. So I agree. Like when I'm talking about, I think me personally, the best right back of all time, I told you I had to amend that video. I amended that video where I said Trent is going to end up being the best right back of all time. But I had to amend that, and I had to replace him with Kyle Walker. I think Kyle Walker is the best Premier League right back of all time. And this is why I believe this. You get the two biggest endorsements you get, in my opinion. Hazard, the best, one of the two best wingers, Premier League wingers of all time. Hazard, who I've never really seen him have a problem getting by anybody in the Premier League. He said, they asked him, who's the toughest opponent you face? He goes, Kyle Walker. Why? Because he's bigger, faster, and stronger than me. Really should be a case closed. But then watch this. They asked Neymar, who in Europe gives you the most trouble? And he didn't even hesitate. He said Kyle Walker. And then he said, and then they asked him, and then watch this. They asked him, who's the like another tough defender you've played? He said Ruben Diaz. Now, I want you to get, here's something about Neymar. Neymar might be the best 1v1 player of all time. He has every trick at his arsenal. He can get by left foot, right foot. 1v1, he's unstoppable. For him, this is the first name that popped in his mind. Kyle Walker, Ruben Diaz. So now I got to look at Ruben Diaz in a higher light, more than Van Dijk, in my opinion. Because Ruben Diaz has had more consecutive seasons as being excellent than Van Dijk. But we want to push Van Dijk. Why? Because he played for Liverpool. But that's a whole another conversation for another day. By the way, if you don't wear red, you're not going to get the credit that you deserve. That's my opinion. I don't even think English fans realize that they do this. I think English fans don't realize that they do this. If you don't wear red, they just don't rate you for some reason. I don't know what it is. I think it's the England-Scotland colors thing. I don't think they realize they do this. they subconsciously do this. And on top of that, it doesn't help that most of the British media, when it comes to British media and the soccer pundits, most of them are former Arsenal, Liverpool, and Manchester United players. So this list, I can't argue specifically. I'm not saying this list is wrong, but I understand. Now, if we're taking Pep Guardiola's formation, let me put it on me real quick. If we're taking Pep Guardiola's formation, I would, and we're using a 4-3-3, right? And we're combining both of the teams. We'll do a 4-3-3. And I'll do a little bonus formation at the end to show you Pep's tactics. Right? You got Kyle Walker right back, Diaz, Stam center back, left back, Dennis Irwin, holding mid, Rodri. The two center mids would be De Bruyne and Paul Scholes. And the front three, who would the front three would be in Pep Guardiola's 4-3-3 with combined? Haaland up top, and who would be on the wings? Probably Giggs and Bernardo Silva, I guess. I don't know. That would make sense. That would make sense in a 4-3-3. But Pep won the latter part of the season with a new kind of formation where he had 3 in the back, 2 right in front of them, 5 in the midfield, and 1 up top. So if we're going by Pep's logic, what he would do is he would put 3 back-oriented players, but he would put like Kyle Walker at that right center back and either Akanji or Nathan Ake at that left. And the thing with Kyle Walker and Ake, they can play wing back. So once the 2 defensive midfielders would drop off, they can actually spread out wide if need be to give width, if need be. So if we're going by that, oh yeah, for goalkeeper, you can do Schmeichel or Ederson, really. But I'll just do Schmeichel out of respect. The center backs, obviously, he would choose would be Diaz, and then he'll put Kyle Walker at the right center back, and then he'll put Dennis Irwin at the left center back. Especially when you look at what Dennis Irwin could do, he would have been perfect for Pep. He would have been perfect. He would have loved him. The holding mids, that would be Rodri and Keane, or you could do Keane and Scholes. Honestly, in a formation like that, you can do Keane and Scholes as the holding mids. You can do that. But knowing Pep, yeah, Keane and Scholes. We'll do Keane and Scholes. He'll do that. Then, for the wingers, he would put Ryan Giggs at the left wing, Bernardo Silva at the right. You could put Beckham there if you want. If you wanted to, you probably could put Beckham there. And what Pep was trying to do with that. And then you'd have De Bruyne and Gundogan. That would work. In my opinion, that would work. Then you put Haaland up top. Case closed. That works. That works. Now this, when you do a formation like that, I think that's even. That makes it pretty even in terms of the amount of Manchester United players and Man City players. Let me look. 4, 5. Yeah, that's pretty even. That's 6 City players, 5 Manchester United players, and really, you could switch out one of the wings if you want. You could put 2 Manchester United wingers there, and that would make it 6 Man U players and 5 Man City players. If you use the formation that Pep was using at the end of the season, that kind of perverted 3-2-5-1 that he was trying out, that works. And technically, it makes everybody happy. I wasn't even trying to do that. I was just trying to be objective. I swear to God, I was trying to be completely objective. That works. If you put Schmeichel in goal, Dennis Irwin, Kyle Walker, Diaz in the back as the 3, and Dennis Irwin and Kyle Walker can spread out when the 2 defensive midfielders drop back. You put Keane, Scholes in that role. You put Gundogan and Kevin De Bruyne right in front of him. That works, guys. That works. And you put them in front of him, and it actually gives De Bruyne a lot more freedom to roam. Right there, if you have Gundogan, Scholes, Keane in your midfield already, and then you add De Bruyne, it actually gives De Bruyne more freedom and Gundogan more freedom. Then with the wingers, Giggs, Bernardo Silva at the other side, or you can switch out Bernardo Silva for David Beckham, however you want to do it. And then you put Haaland up top. What? How about this? Let's switch Bernardo Silva. But if you already got Giggs, you already got De Bruyne for the set pieces, and Dennis Irwin. And that works. You can pick and choose Bernardo Silva or David Beckham at that right wing position. And basically their jobs is to stay wide and put in the crosses with Haaland waiting in the middle, and De Bruyne and Gundogan are lethal. That works. Now that works right there.